Our sources, Diddy is not being housed in a solitary cell. And what's more surprising, the sources say he can still get his freak on, so to speak. There is apparently a secret system that inmates on the block all seem to know about, a way to spy on the female inmates who are housed one floor below them.
Diddy Combs has been denied bail in connection with the sexual abuse and sex trafficking charges he faces. And as Les Trump reports, the music mogul who once traveled by private jet to all those mansions is now in a jail that is notorious for its bad living conditions.
From champagne-soaked parties to, well, not so cozy federal lockup, Sha Diddy comes the music mogul who once reigned over a private jet lifestyle is now discovering that his new accommodations come with less fluff and more, let's call it, rustic charm.
I thought there's no way there could be some way to contact the ladies down below, but tell me how it worked.
It's a dormitory Puff Daddy's in. He's not in cells. So there's a big dorm with a bunch of bunks, and then there's a little room where you go into, and it's like a workout area. But it's not really a yard, you would say. It's just like with gates, like you see right there in the building. And you could literally lay down and the females are right below you and you could just yell at them and they yell back. And basically like you could kind of see them and they could see you a little bit, but you have to watch out for the guards, obviously. But you can talk with them and, show each other some things sometimes, which I never did any of that.
Diddy made his grand debut in federal court, but the spotlight wasn't as flattering as he's used to. Shackled at the ankles, he looked more orange as the new black than Grammy chic.
Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn is notorious for its appalling living conditions and rampant violence. How bad is it inside this federal lockup? There have been 2 murders, 4 suicides, and numerous stabbings and lockdowns in recent years. It's so out of control inside that 4 federal judges are reportedly refusing to send any more prisoners here. Donald Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen, spent a harrowing year in federal custody. He says for someone used to a life of luxury like Diddy, prison life is a severe shock.
And as if the reality of a situation needed further emphasis, the judge didn't just deny bail, he practically gift-wrapped him for Brooklyn's infamous Metropolitan Detention Center, a place affectionately nicknamed Hell on Earth.
You have a desk, you have a plastic chair, you have your bed with a 1.5-inch mattress, no pillow, and you also have a locker. So you basically have 3 feet by 5 feet to move around. So you have a basic 15 square feet. It is a horrible, horrible place.
Diddy's lawyers were so eager to keep him out of jail, they offered his palatial $48 million home in Miami Beach and his private jets as bail.
It's quite the downgrade, trading in his $48 million Miami mansion for a 15 QFT slice of misery. No plush pillows, no gourmet breakfasts, just a mattress as thin as his chances of getting out anytime soon, and a plastic chair for all his VIP solitary thoughts. And in case you're wondering, this isn't the kind of place where you can order caviar room service.
Today, they are even offering to restrict female visitors to his homes, except for his mother, daughters, and the mothers of his children if he is released. They told the judge the jail he was being sent to is dreadful, dirty, inhuman, and an ongoing tragedy.
How's your dad doing? How's your dad doing?
Family members appeared somber as they arrived at federal court in Manhattan today in another attempt to get out on bail. The judge cited Diddy's history of violent temper and potential intimidation of witnesses.
Diddy's legal team pulled out all the stops, offering his palatial properties and even promising to ban all female visitors except for his mom, daughters, and baby M, because nothing says trust me like a man voluntarily restricting his herm. Right? The judge, however, didn't seem particularly impressed by this goodwill gesture, citing Diddy's, shall we say, unpredictable temper.
I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. 54-year-old Sean P. Diddy Combs is entering his 4th week behind bars. being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. It's a far cry from his lavish life and mansions in Miami and Los Angeles, but ironically, it was the evidence collected at those mansions that put Diddy in jail in the first place. Back in March, federal investigators raided Diddy's homes in Florida and California.
54-year-old Diddy, accustomed to luxury, now finds himself in the Metropolitan Detention Center. Think of it as the anti-man. Mannion, decrepit, overcrowded, and according to his legal team, a breeding ground for violence. Ironically, it's evidence collected from his mansion's AR-15s, illegal substances, and some spicy electronic evidence that landed him here. Oh, the irony of lavish living.
Collecting evidence in the federal case against him. We now have a better idea about what investigators were collecting, including multiple AR-15 rifles with the serial numbers removed, a drum magazine, and illegal drugs. But Diddy doesn't face any charges for possession of those items. Instead, it was the electronic evidence that led to Diddy's charges. On September 16th, he was indicted by a federal grand jury on charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution.
Back in March, federal agents raided Diddy's homes, uncovering a treasure trove of not-so-family-friendly videos and 100-plus devices that tapes alleged proof of his involvement in a decades-long trafficking ring. His freakishly elaborate freak-offs went from keeping victims silent to providing prosecutors their smoking gun, a plot twist no one saw coming.
A main topic discussed in this indictment was freak-offs, described as elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. And the government alleges these freak-offs were not consensual. The indictment lays out a pattern of abuse that Diddy would often follow, drugging or forcing the victims to drink alcohol that was oftentimes laced with something, sexually assaulting these victims, and then forcing them to have sex with a prostitute. Now, the feds say they have evidence of these freak-offs because Diddy often recorded.
You think offering $50 million in bail would be enough to get anyone out? Right? Nope. Judge Andrew L. Carter shut that down faster than Diddy's entourage dodging TMZ. The reasoning? Public safety concerns, possible witness tampering, and oh yes, that tiny detail about alleged anger issues seems money can't fix everything.
Investigators apparently have dozens of freak-off videos and collected more than 100 cell phones, laptops, cloud storage accounts, and storage devices. They allege Diddy used the sensitive, embarrassing, and incriminating recordings that he made during the freak-offs as collateral to ensure the continued obedience and silence of the victims. So these same recordings that were once used to keep victims quiet are now being used to prosecute Diddy in a sex trafficking scheme that goes back decades. The allegations against Diddy go back a while too, with survivors reporting abuse as far back as 1991.
Now, let's talk about accommodations. According to his attorneys, the jail is essentially a horror movie set to inmate attacks, multiple deaths, and 6 staff members charged with crimes. Yet somehow, Diddy's legal team paints him as the unluckiest guy in a system clearly thriving in chaos. Who knew?
When agents from Homeland Security Investigations approach and separate him, they place Combs under arrest and lead him out the front door in handcuffs. His lawyer said Combs had come to New York 2 weeks earlier with the intention of turning himself in. He did not expect the agents to be waiting at his hotel last Monday.
Shocking footage shows Diddy's dramatic arrest as the music mogul faces Fed charges. The high-profile incident has stunned fans and reignited debates about his controversies, leaving many questioning the future of one of entertainment's biggest icons.
Diddy to be locked up in one of the most run-down and violent jails in the U.S. For that, we'll turn to criminal defense attorney and law and crime legal analyst Imran Ansari, who repped other high-profile defendants like Harvey Weinstein and 50 Cent. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. All right, so big news out of New York, where P. Diddy has been held for more than a week in the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. This comes after Diddy's arrest last Monday, following his indictment by a federal grand jury.
Reports suggest Diddy has gone full James Bond villain meets conspiracy theorist. His refusal to eat jail food stems from concerns that someone's out to season his meals with something lethal, while other inmates dig into their mystery meatloaf. Diddy seems to believe his might come with a side of arsenic if nothing else. It's a creative weight loss plan.
Charges of racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. The 14-page indictment lays out some pretty strong claims against Diddy, alleging he's guilty of sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and obstruction of justice. The indictment goes on to allege Diddy showed a pattern of abuse, mostly against women, that included verbal, emotional, physical, and sexual abuse, including the use of extensive grooming tactics. There's also mention of something referred to as free.
Oh, but that's not all. He's been relocated to a special protective unit sharing quarters with other high-profile inmates, including CryptoCon Sam Bankman-Fried. It's like a twisted reality show. Call it Mogul and Misfits. Behind bars, one has FTX's collapse. The other has, well, a long indictment list. What could they possibly chat about over their non-existent meals?
Which are described as elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. During these so-called freak-offs, Diddy would often drug his victims, sometimes without their knowledge, to keep them obedient and compliant. Then, Diddy allegedly required these victims to have sex with prostitutes, and oftentimes he recorded that too. Again, these recordings were made without the victim's knowledge or consent.
The Metropolitan Detention Center, or MDC for short, isn't exactly the wit's reports of violence, overcrowding, and poor conditions. Make it sound more like a dungeon than a detention center for Diddy. It's a far cry from his Cyro-sponsored lifestyle. Rumor has it even the guards don't know whether to offer sympathy or a soundtrack to his downfall.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Guys, if you enjoy content like this, make sure you come to our Kempire After Dark live experience in Los Angeles this Wednesday, November 20th at the Bourbon Room, Hollywood. And then we're coming to London.
People magazine wasn't joking when they said Diddy still wields power from inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center. Investigators now claim he's been busy breaking jailhouse rules, allegedly paying witnesses to influence public perception, and even managing PR campaigns through his family. You'd think he'd spend his time reading or reflecting, but no, he's plotting his next social media move.
We're going to be talking about everything from the diddler to hot topics to reality TV and so much more. We'll be in London on December 8th at Neon 194. Then we're coming back to Washington, D.C. on January 24th. More information on the Kempire After Dark live experience, LA, London, and D.C. shows will be available in the description. So, you know, we've been covering the diddler for months now at this particular point. As you know, he is trying for a third time.
According to prosecutors, Diddy isn't just chatting away on prison phones. He's using other inmates' phone accounts, allegedly bribing them with commissary credits and cold hard cash three-way calls. Check secret payments through apps. Check, it's like a jailhouse startup, but instead of innovation, it's all about intimidation.
He is trying for a third time to get out of jail. He's facing charges for trafficking, all kinds of stuff. We've gone through all those details, but we did a separate video just a few weeks ago where People magazine says that Diddy still has power and influence even from within inside this jail. And that is important to note because this new information might be the reason why, for a third time, he will be denied bail.
They found notes in his cell. Yes, actual notes that allegedly show he paid a witness to make a cozy Instagram post supporting his case. Nothing screams innocent like orchestrating a social media campaign from behind bars. It's like he's trying to turn his trial into the next Netflix docu-series.
Need you to get rid of all the leftover pizza boxes. You know what? All the boxes left over from the pizza. All water boxes. Make sure you recycle the plastic like we talked about.
He calls his son from jail not to discuss life lessons or regrets, but to stress the urgent matter of recycling pizza leftovers. Priorities right, saving slices while serving time. True environmental hero in the making.